wrote them up, and I typed them up. I haven't had a chance to share them yet, but they're on my computer. So it was more about just growing up in Elton's
camp. I brought pictures of that today.
You got pictures of Elton's camp?
What's left?
I don't know if I've ever seen those photos.
And the mean boys that pulled up your potato plants. And
Okay, this is Karen Goodrich. She's the youngest. This is Margaret Goodrich Rice, and she's the middleest. This is Evelyn Goodrich Brummett Trickle, and she's the middle.
Second child.
And this is Mary Louise Goodrich Melvin, and she's the firstborn.
In California.
So tell us, tell us what you remember about being born.
In California.
I was born in California.
Okay, at home.
At home.
Okay.
And I don't know, my grandmother was there, I'm sure, because she was the midwife. And I'm sure she'd have been there for her first grandchild.
What, Grandma Akers?
which grandmother? Goodrich, Hester Pearl. Hester Pearl.
And why were you in California?
Why
Why were you in California? Because I always knew Grandpa and you guys to live here. Why were you in California?
Dad was out there working in a lumber camp.
Okay, and that was when?
1930, June the 22nd, 1930. So that's been a long time ago.
How did you all get to California? Did you drive? Did you ride a train? Did you take a
We drove.
Conestoga wagon?
We moved out. I mean, in a car. That's what.
Okay.
That's how much furniture, what have you had. Of course, you had running boards on the car, and it was probably packed as far as it could go, and Dad could get in it. But we drove out
Okay.
and took our furnishings with us. But I'm sure we didn't have furniture like we have nowadays.
So do you girls, did you live in a tent? Did you live in a company housing? Did you live in a trailer? Where did you live?
We lived in company housing.
Company houses.
We lived in Elkins Camp. McLeod was the big town, if you want to call it that. And Elkins Camp was the logging
Okay.
camp. And Dad worked out in the timber somewhere. Well, there was a sawmill.
He worked at the
there,
sawmill.
but anyway.
He worked at the sawmill.
And
He didn't
worked at
cut
it.
the trees down. He worked the lumber up.
He worked the lumber.
Stack.
The
lumber.
logs up.
Yeah.
It's McLeod that worked the lumber up.
Do you want to tell them about the first house being partly tent?
When we first moved out there, it must have been, I don't know for sure what time it was, what time of the year. But we lived in, I'd call it a shed, with a tent on part of it. That was half of the house was a tent. And we slept in the wooden part, in the house part. And we had a card table. And Dad didn't come home for lunch always. And Mom would take that card table out into the warm part of the house. And I remember eating potato soup at that card table. Don't ask me why, but I can remember that. Living like that, I couldn't.
And then you got to move into a real.
Then we moved into a house. But our houses out there, I don't know what they're like nowadays, but they were not finished on the inside. You had 2x4s or whatever you put up on the wall, but they were not covered with paneling or anything like we were used to now. But that was the lumber camp. That's where only the logging men lived in those kind of houses. I suppose the bosses had better houses, I don't know. But we lived in a house in there, of course, had outdoor plumbing, and the toilet, I think, was half a mile from the house. It surely wasn't. For a little girl having to run up a hill. No, the toilet was up on a rise, and it was quite a ways up there, I thought.
In the wintertime.
But,
Tell them about the wintertime.
Go to the
well, one
restroom in the winter time.
that of course, it snowed, we were at the foot of the mountain, and it snowed like the dickens. And, they would always shovel the path up to the toilet, and of course I was little, but I think a man could walk up that path before winter was over, and you couldn't see his top of his head. That snow, I don't know how they ever scooped it myself, but you'd be going to the bath or to the toilet, and there goes a sled over your head. That sled, they slides or paths weren't wide enough, but the sled would just go zooming right on across it. Now, once in a great while, when we'd go, but I don't remember anybody ever getting hurt because I was a little. I wouldn't have remembered that, but I can remember going up to the toilet with a sled going over your head.
From the Henri boys,
What?
the Henri boys in the neighborhood. 2 little Goodrich girls and all those boys.
I went to school out there my first year and a half, I think, probably, and I was the only girl. And of course, the snow was deep, and when I had to go to the toilet, the teacher carried me out to the toilet, stood me, put me inside, waited till I was ready to come back out. And I can remember that. Don't ask me why. But I went to, there was, I think 8 boys and 1 girl, me, to that. We had a man teacher, that was the first man teacher first teacher I ever had, I guess. But I think I went through all the rest of the 8th grade. Our rural school had never had a bad teacher, except that one. Of course, no woman would want to go out there and put up with that.
So, Mom, where were you born?
I was born in the Goodrich house. Aunt Blasey was the midwife that was there.
The one across from Shelburne School?
Or Goodrich School, yes.
Okay, Goodrich School, excuse me. Aunt Margaret, where were you born?
I think the same place.
Okay.
As far as I don't remember.
Well, and Karen?
I was born at the Rock Memorial Hospital in Trenton.
Okay, they had
Not
I was
the same
modern.
as St. Louis.
You were modern.
But there was, Dad went out there and worked, and he'd worked for 2 or 3 years, maybe, or 18 months, something like
18
that.
months,
And had saved enough money to start farming again. Then he would come back to Missouri until he had a farming year, and he didn't make any money, and we go back to California. And that's the reason I was born in California. And Evelyn was, she's 2.5 years younger than I, but she was born back here. But then there was a California trip between her and Margaret and Karen.
Oh, okay, so you went back out. I know Grandpa told my brother Richard that farming was what he loved to do, and he would go to California to work to make enough money so he could farm. So raised on the farm, then what specific chores do you remember having? And Karen, what's a specific chore you had?
Now,
No, as a child.
I didn't do anything back then because I had mother. And
That's right. Big sisters?
I never did do anything.
You didn't have chores.
I did not have chores.
Okay.
You didn't spend all day on the computer, though.
Huh?
You didn't spend all day on the computer, though.
Well, Mom and Aunt Margaret, do you remember, did you get eggs, milk cows?
We got eggs. We picked up the corn cobs in the hog pasture, brought them in so Mom could start the fire with them. I would Margie and me, Mary Louise, and I would go out, get the cattle and drive them up so Dad could go behind the mountain. Remember walking along the fence between us and Uncle Clyde? Were you there?
It's okay.
But,
I think those cows must have known about milking time because they'd be right up close. And by the time it's time to get them in the barn, they'll clear the back of the field. We'd have to go down after.
What about, did you ever have any pets?
a dog,
What was your dog's name?
Bum.
Bum?
We had a
There,
dog
Dad's
that
dog's
was
name.
We had
cats.
calves in the house, we had pigs in the house, we had lambs.
In the house?
How you gonna get them warm? Because, well,
come behind the more morning stove to keep them. That little stove ground behind the kitchen.
Can you remember any of that, Aunt Karen or Aunt Margie, having the little animals in the house?
No, but I do have that now. In fact, we had one in the house one night this week, in the basement.
We had
And little
one
pig.
little lamb that couldn't walk right and just had a hard time. But we loved him and took care of him, and then Dad came home one day and said he sold him to Raleigh Regal up on the top of the hill. I would imagine, in my mind, child mind, that Raleigh took it and killed it. But Dad didn't want us to know that that's what happened to the lamb. But Raleigh didn't have a nickel to begin with, but that's what we told, that Raleigh bought the lamb.
We'd have a pig in the house once in a while. The little pig, if the mother wouldn't take the pig, we'd bottle feed a little pig.
I can remember animals being in the
I
house.
can remember Grandma having some little pigs, and she had a cardboard box, was by the bathroom wall now,
Yes.
but between the stove was there at the end of the kitchen counter, and that bathroom wall, they had
Well, it would have been winter,
pigs.
mostly winter time, when the animals, you know, if they wouldn't do well on it,
Dress them up, take pictures.
they would take care of until they were old enough to be out on their own,
Pigs
so,
at Grandma's house.
yeah. Did you ever, assuming, you know, we know that going to California wasn't a vacation, did you ever get to go anywhere, trips, anything you took?
We went to Oregon. Was it Klamath Falls? Went to Uncle Virgil was married. We went somewhere.
Yeah, I can't think.
And we were there was a picture of us in a car where the snow was over the car. I mean, they shoveled out the roads, but and on the 4th of July, the snow bank was taller than the car.
On the 4th of July?
We were of course, in Northern California at the time. And they kept the road open, but I tell you, you couldn't see where you was. I mean, you followed the road, but the snow was taller than the car.
Let's keep it open for the lumber trucks.
Well, they can't keep them open to the lumber truck.
Did you,
When we we always went to Grandma Goodrich's on the weekend, and we had to go on the train,
Caboose.
on the logging train, because as long as the weather was bad, they didn't even bother with the roads, because they shipped all the lumber from Elkins Camp into McLeod by train, and we'd go to the caboose, ride the caboose. We'd got time Sunday afternoon when it was time to come home, we got on the train, caboose, and came back to McLeod, to Elkins Camp.
What was Grandma and Grandpa Goodrich, Hester Goodrich and Richard Goodrich, what were they doing out there?
Grandpa was a night watchman. He went out, he farmed, and of course he went broke on the farm.
Out there.
And he went out to California, and
So like Grandpa, the two of them went out there.
they went out
Basically,
there
Hickory
before
Creek
Dad
was out
left
there.
home. I mean, Dad was still, I think Dad went with Dad and two
Uncle
or three
Virgil.
other men from around the neighborhood.
And then Dad came back, and he and Mother were married, and then Aunt Lucille and Nanny, Nanny,
Yeah, Nanny.
and Mom and Dad went back, and Daddy had to sleep with Nanny because Mom and Aunt Lucille slept together on the way back.
This was Mom and Dad's honeymoon.
Yeah, they're honeymoon, yes.
With great mom in the seat of the sleep.
so was he sleeping with his mother or his
Your
mother-in-law?
mother-in-law, his grandmother.
His grandmother.
Shared a bed, I mean, because they were just, it was, the motels, I didn't have indoor plumbing either. I remember one time we were out there, Charlie and Belle and Mom and Dad were traveling together. And we all went to the bathroom, the women went to the bathroom together, and I don't know how I got lost and I yelled, Mom! And somebody answered, they were trying to go to I was trying to find my mother out in the middle of the night in the bathroom.
So, what about school?
The school I went to out in Elkins Camp was just a one-room schoolhouse, much like, I can't remember the furniture or anything. I can just remember a man teacher, and who carried me to the bathroom, to the toilet. I mean, that's what an impression.
So what about the school then in down by Hickory. Tell us about it. One of you share something.
Me,
Did you go?
I went to Shelburne. Mary
Okay.
Louise was my second year teacher.
Okay.
And then the folks moved up, north of Hickory.
So were you teacher's pet, or did you get in trouble?
Did you go to Shelburne School?
I think I was teacher's pet.
So did you, so it was a one-room school, an old country school. Did you graduate from there, or did you end up
No,
going?
Graduated
we
eighth
went to
grade.
starting ninth grade, you went to Trenton.
Oh, okay, so you went up through ninth.
Pleasant Ridge would use.
Well, when the folks moved up there was a school called Pleasant Ridge, one room.
Okay.
But us three went to school just across the road and up just a little bit from the schoolhouse.
And you got to go home for lunch,
Had to go home for lunch.
Had to.
but nobody else did. Right?
They ate the fatback sandwiches or onion sandwiches, and we had to go home and eat hot lunch.
Because you lived across the street from the school. You poor things.
What kind of sandwiches beside onion?
Fatback.
And what is that?
You don't really want to know. The hog jolts, which is all fat, and then they sliced it thick, and then they'd cook it, put it between two cold biscuits.
I think it come from the cheeks here, didn't it?
It's like bacon, so it's
That's
bacon.
Oh no,
No,
okay, but
You could say that, but that's not true.
Onion sandwich, how bad?
onion sandwiches.
Just a slice of onion on a bread?
Oh, it's between cold biscuits, yes.
Sure, it's not still there.
Mary Louise and Ed Rice went
She
to.
ate the onion sandwich. I don't think I ever did.
I didn't eat it either, but that's what the kids have done. Mary Louise and Ed Rice went to school at Shelburne. Graduated from Shelburne, and John Rice and I went to. Mary Louise had already been to a year and a half in California. John and I went to 8 grades there at Shelburne.
Now, where was Sheldon School located?
Right across from the family home, Goodrich House. It's still there.
Where you taught? That was the name of that school, was Sheldon School.
Yeah.
Or somebody called it, we have a picture where they said Goodrich
Well,
School.
when it was first built, it was called the Goodrich School. And then I guess the Goodriches didn't own the school, it was just right across the road. And then they named it Shelburne, so I don't know. I mean, it was always Shelburne when we girls were there.
I think Rice's gave the land of a show, and then they just call it Goodrich because it was right across the road, I think.
So did you ever come to Kansas City from Trenton? Did you ever make
That's
trips?
1,000 miles away. Why would we do that?
Well, I don't know. I'm just asking.
We went down to, I don't know who all, down to Nelson Art Gallery one time. I don't know how we got some people to take us down there. Did you go to Nelson Art Gallery? Nelson Art Gallery in Kansas City?
But that was,
We were still in Shelburne.
well, I wasn't, I don't think.
I surely
Oh,
wasn't.
my Helen Holloway got it. She she hired the bus, or,
I didn't remember how we got there, but
we went by, I suppose, what you call school bus.
wouldn't have been a school bus because Fred Key had a
Well, there was-
panel truck.
So describe a typical day, Mom. Describe a typical day as a child.
Well, you'd get in, go to school, and
Would you do chores before you went to school?
we did our chore. No, we didn't.
Okay, you didn't have to do
No, we didn't do that. Dad and Mom did the milking.
What'd you have for breakfast?
Pardon?
What was a typical breakfast?
I suppose we had to have hot eggs and chicken, hot eggs and biscuits. We didn't get cereal till
To say we didn't have much cereal, that wasn't invented.
when they started having puffed wheats, which I didn't like, but we ate them because we got a comic book.
Okay, so you'd get up and have breakfast.
Then you go across the road to school. You'd go in. Everyone had to sit down in their seats, and we'd stand and have it. We have a Bible reading. We had a pledge of allegiance to the flag, and then you start your lessons. And teacher would start with the first grade. They'd come up there, and then second grade, third grade, all recite. But we'd have to. I'd listen to what the others were doing. Enjoy that.
Okay, and then after school you would.
Make a run for Aunt Clara's and listen to Jack Armstrong, and then come home and do chores.
Jack Armstrong on the radio.
They had we had a radio, but Dad listened to the news, that was it. Maybe, oh, they had
Okay, we got her, and Pippa began Molly.
but we did not listen to anything else because
It was
we
radio.
had a
I
battery
didn't have
down.
TVs yet.
And that coming up Clyde, oh no, they let us listen to those stories on the radio.
We got electricity in, I believe it was 1941.
Well, but did they have electricity?
They had electricity before we
Before we
did.
did.
We got it in 1941.
And did he farm, Uncle Clyde, did he farm too?
He had cattle,
Oh, he had cattle, okay.
raised cattle.
What did he do?
I suppose the corn off his pasture, he had some farming ground, but he didn't farm.
Who farmed for him?
I don't know.
Did he just own their area where they live and then one right across the road?
Yes,
down to right-
that was part of, that's what Aunt Clara aired. You had, John Henry got the farm where, Richard got the farm where John Henry lived, let's see, John Henry. Harrison lived across the creek. Who was the other, four, come on, help me.
He had 4 kids and he left
John Henry,
40 acres to each one, or 60.
I'm sorry, I
This
don't
is
have my,
the, this is the Goodrich.
Goodrich, yes, the four.
The Goodrich farm,
Asheville had 4 sons. John Henry,
somebody got off
Harrison.
the Buffalo streets. How that
that was
farm-
George, that was John Henry's brother.
Oh, okay. I knew it was the Goodrich.
I don't remember which one Aunt Clara and Uncle Clyde got. Aunt Clara, but Harrison lived, okay, that's the third one. There's another one that got, the farm, Aunt Clara. Aunt Clara got the third one.
So Aunt Karen, do you remember any games you would play as a child? Like on the schoolyard, at the school, or any
Oh, yeah.
sort of fun? What are some things you would do?
Handy over, you know, you throw the ball over the schoolhouse.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Half of the kids stayed on one side and the other half, and you threw it over. That was fun.
I think caught
Baseball, oh,
Okay.
or, you know, yeah,
run
baseball.
around
Fox and geese.
the school and,
Fox and geese is one that.
In the
played
snow.
well, that when you played that in the snow.
No, Addie always wanted to run around school, but Fox and geese were played on the north side.
When you threw it over the school.
That was Annie over.
And it was called what? Annie over? Okay.
I don't know if it was A-N-D-I or A-N-D-E, I don't
I
remember.
don't know.
Oh, when we played it was just A-N-N-I-E. We played that.
Okay. And then you would play baseball, and then you said the.
Fox and geese,
And how does that?
well, you'd have a circle and
In the snow.
Okay.
You don't know how to play fox and geese?
I guess not.
Mom would peg.
Do you know how to play?
Yeah. You make the big circle with the cross pie pieces and a little circle in the middle. And so the fox is tag,
Okay.
and you can only go on the pads, you can't go around. So you can cut this way and around, and so the geese are running everywhere, and whoever's fox tries to catch them.
Oh, okay.
Ask John Rice, he was there.
Okay.
And Karen, you said you played baseball. Did the girls participate as well, or was it just watching?
Yeah, you all
Okay.
played together.
Okay. All right.
Now, the country school that I went to, Pleasant Ridge had, well, we always had like 18 or 20, 22 kids, so, you know, we had 2 different teams.
Okay.
And where was Pleasant Ridge located?
Well, you know where the Dockery Chapel Church is? Just about a half a mile east.
East.
Freddie Key has a house there now.
Okay. So then when you were older, what kind of activities would you do for fun? I mean, did you have?
You got a boyfriend?
You got.
I did.
That's what you did. I heard that story.
Well, let's hear that.
Well, Mother and Dad didn't want their girls doing whatever they thought the other kids were doing, I guess. And they decided they would have some games. So on Saturday night, we would all get together. We would square it out, because I never could square it around or anything else down, so they'd do that. And skip to Malou, my darling, and
Play party games.
yes. I mean, you go to one house, each one, you take some snacks.
Yeah,
You go to different houses.
I can remember when I was we still lived down at the Goodrich house, and I had to be 6 or under. And of course the girls being older, every Sunday, there was a bunch, or maybe it was, I think it was Sunday, there was a bunch of people their age that came to our house. I can remember that. And your dad, I remember him coming riding a horse, and then he would, as soon as church was over, he came, I think he rode the horse to our house, but then he would just smack the horse on the hind end and it would go home. Right? Am I telling that right?
Mhm.
And then, did Dad take him home then of a night? or-
I suppose when we went to church, he probably just, one of the Bremen boys may have put a horse over, I don't remember.
Why would you have sent the horse on home?
I don't know.
I
Because
think
he'd
it,
be there all
a
day.
good horse would go home by itself.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
How's he
why?
gonna get home? Yeah.
Yeah, if he's gonna have to get home,
Now, how do you-
Unless somebody
Sometime.
else might have needed the horse to go somewhere or do a chore or something, but that, yeah, that's a good question. Why send your ride home?
Well, probably somebody was there with a car that he could have ridden
Yeah.
on. They live kind of, Runnels live kind of off the,
Back behind
beaten
our house
path,
where
so
we
to
live.
speak. Beyond Karen's, way in there somewhere.
No, we lived in the Bremen home place, and back for Karen and all really.
So Aunt Margie, Uncle John, come over here by Aunt Margie for a minute, please. Thank you.
You can sit at her feet.
Or you can stand behind,
It's
whatever.
good, Jimmy, step aside, or like
Tell
that.
us,
Somebody scoot one way or the other.
tell us how you decided that you liked her, or did she tell you that you liked her? I mean, you guys grew up together, and so how did you decide that she was the one?
All I ever heard was about the Goodrich boys, the Goodrich girls and the Rice boys fighting. That's what I heard.
Well, that was Evelyn.
Now, he was older than her. Edwin Earl and I and John and Evelyn were approximately the same ages.
I don't know, just, well, what she says is, when I found out I was gonna go in the Navy, I needed somebody to write to me. So I started dating her. So I'd have somebody to get letters from.
I was good at it, wasn't I?
Yeah.
So you talk about dating. How would you date? What does that mean? You would go to her house, or
I'd
you
go
would
to-
go where?
Go to her house and get her, and we'd go to a movie. I think it's about the only thing we ever did.
I never would think, you know, how nowadays you wouldn't think of three people riding in a seat together, you know. The driver and the passenger, and then whatever can ride in the back seat. Well, when we dated, it was a panel 39, wasn't it?
30,
Well, an old
38, I think
panel,
38 Chevrolet panel truck.
and
It's, if you want to know what it looks like, Chevrolet is making one now,
Oh,
about the same size, and it looks almost like it did. Saw one the other day. It was a nice white color, but had the gear shift down here in the floor.
but John's brother, that's 11 months younger than him, and my girlfriend, they started dating, and John and I were dating, and we'd all four go together in that front seat of that car that had to shift gears between one of our legs. And, you know, times are different. We had that whole back of that van, that whatever that thing was called. Nowadays, think what kind of couple would have that.
so then, did you get married then before you left, or were you gone for a while and come back?
No, I was gone for quite a while, and then came back, and I don't remember for sure how long it was that we wrote letters, but then I think it was after we'd been in Korea was when we got married, after I'd been on that aircraft carrier and did our tour of duty in Korea. And then I was reassigned, we put that aircraft carrier in mothballs, what they called it, up at Birmingham, Washington. and I was reassigned to another ship that was an attack transport ship. And I think that's when we decided to get married, because I knew I was, only going to have another year.
So Aunt Margie, did you go with him then, or did you, after you got married, were you together or were you apart?
For a while, because he was going to get shipped out again, and I don't remember, not very long was I able to be out there. But it was a new experience for me, to get to go to California, and then we went up to Bremerton, Washington, and I loved it all. I still have enjoyed moving. I didn't mind going different places.
Okay.
The first time you leave home, it's always, now going to California wasn't bad, because I knew that was just going to be a short time. But then, when we picked up and went other places, you knew that was going to be a while. But I hated to come back to Trenton, I'll assure you.
When we were, this was probably, I was still stationed at San Diego, California, or Mare Island was actually, that was, the ship was home ported there. And so that's when I think I came back, we got married. She went back out there, and we got housing on the naval base
Okay,
in a Quonset hut,
okay,
which was a World War II housing.
okay.
And then,
Did those Quonset huts have separate rooms in them, or were they all one room?
they had separate.
Okay, I
rooms.
didn't
Yeah,
know.
they
Okay.
divided up. They had like a bedroom,
Okay.
kitchen, living room, sort of. Anyway, so we got the word that we were going to take this ship. That was still, I was still assigned to the aircraft carrier, and they said, we're going to send you up to Bremerton, Washington, put it in, deactivate it, put it in mothball. So she couldn't go. I had to go with the ship. She couldn't go, so she was going to have to ride the train up there.
Because he wouldn't let me drive the car.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't trust her to drive the car. So I worked around and knew some buddies that was in the air part of the ship's crew that were in charge of the airplanes, and talked this one guy into using the crane to put the planes on the flight deck with.
Uh-huh.
I said, could you, I got permission from the captain to put that car on. He said, if you can get it on there, you can take the car on the ship.
Oh,
So
okay.
I got together with the guy that operated the crane, and he lifted that car up. I tied it down with the same cables and winches they tie the airplanes down with.
Uh-huh.
I tied it down, and I wasn't the only one. There was 2 or 3 of us that did this. Tied it down up there, and I put a good coat of wax on it so the salt wouldn't get to it. Carried it up there, and then when we were getting about ready to get up there, we got the word that there was a limited amount of housing, military housing, but it would be first come, first served. And so there was going to be a mad rush for all of us that had wives to get that military housing. So I did a little politicking again and got the guy lined up that operated the crane to get my car out first.
Oh.
So I had a buddy, Marty was Marty, he was married too. So we got together and we got everything we wanted in the car and all ready to go. And the guy who operated the crane, as soon as the ship got tied up to the dock there, he lifted the car up and set it down. We went down, got in the car, and headed for the housing department. And we're about the first in line, so we got the military housing.
Okay.
And you better not come home drunk, because they all look just alike.
So Mom, tell about how you and Roy Lee first decided to date.
Well, we were going to Shelburne Church, and Bremer's didn't have too much to do with church, and then the Bremer boys started going to church, and we sat together. Bremer's didn't have a car, they had a tractor. The boys got around in a tractor. Then they got a little coupe. And you know the size of Bremer's. They couldn't all five get in the coupe at one time. Anyway, I guess it took turns who got the car, I don't remember. But we'd double date with someone who had a car. Most of my girlfriends, boyfriends had a vehicle that hold the floor. We would go to the movies, or the Saturday nights we'd always go to somebody else's house. Movies the main thing that we did. We didn't dance, except the party games that we played. I guess you call those dances. I don't know. But,
Technically they weren't unless you had a musical concert.
pardon?
Technically they weren't a dance unless you had an instrument playing accompaniment with you.
Okay, well.
As long as you were singing, they were just games. That's the
But
American
you know
history.
what was so interesting? Some of the church here, it was at my folks' house, and other people's too, but Dad and Charlie Grinzer is the one that got those started, and the church people did not like that very much,
Even that.
that we were dancing.
But they knew where the children were.
Historically, if it had an instrument, it was dancing, and if it didn't, it was just games.
Yeah.
We were at somebody's house each Saturday night. And we said, Roy
Very
came
same
over the
game,
house on Sunday.
only music or not.
We made our own music, we sang.
Yeah.
Except that I didn't get to very often because you had to be a certain age before they let you play those games.
Well, we played cards, rook. Okay, I started to say pitch, but that's runners played pitch. I mean, I didn't like that because they knew each person who had a card. I mean, they remembered, and I'd take my book, I'm reading a book, and then they said play, so I play a card. And I would not, nobody wanted me to have me as a partner, but I didn't want to play pitch anyway. But we played a lot of rook and enjoyed that. Dominoes some. I never did like Monopoly. I always call it Monotony, but we played that some.
So Aunt Karen, tell about you and Uncle Oliver and
Well,
you started holding hands when you were 6 or what?
probably, maybe 8. There's never been a life without him,
Okay.
because we went, we was always at church together, and we didn't go to the same country school, but went to high school together and got married.
Do you remember when he asked you to marry him?
I'm not right sure he even asked me. I think we just,
Did you ask him?
I think we just
I
got
don't
married.
remember your dad asked me.
I can't know.
Okay. Aunt Margaret and Uncle John, do you remember, did he, a specific time that he asked, or?
Well, I remember the first date that really wasn't a date. We went somewhere in Charles. Ed was already gone. Anyway, I jumped out of the car, and first thing I knew, he was following me. And I said, well, I know how to get to the house. It wasn't a date. I mean, it was just, Mom was up to Mary Louise with one of her kids.
Okay.
And one of the kids was born. And so then, as I say, he was following me to the house. Thought he's been,
Go on.
no, thinking he was doing what young men, you're supposed to take your lady, but he wasn't mine. Anyway, at that time, that's what he asked me for the first time.
Oh, okay, okay. So Aunt Mary Louise, tell us about you and Uncle Orville.
Oh, he was a blind date.
Oh, he was a blind date, okay.
I had a roommate.
Are you still friends with that girl?
I think she's gone.
I had a roommate at college, and she had a neighbor that neighbor boy she wanted me to meet, and he had a girlfriend, but she didn't like that girl, and she wanted him to go with me. So she and she was her and her boyfriend. I was at her place, I guess, and we were going to go all 4 of us. Well, all right, so I was there, and by gum, and she and what's called didn't take off. And I thought we were going together. Well, so here come Orville, dragged it in by himself. So I got in the car by myself with him. I wasn't too keen on that because I had just met him. She was a neighbor of his, and he had picked us up. We had ridden the bus up to Hopkins, and he had brought us out to her folks. That's the only time I had met him. But anyway, I went with it.
What about when you were walking, you were up at her house and you decided to go walk to see the schoolhouse and it was muddy?
Oh, well, we lived on mud roads. I mean, his folks had hurt, she did. And it was one weekend, and she wanted to go to the schoolhouse where she was going to teach that fall, and it was her place, and we went around the corner, and there was a school, and it rained, so it was muddy. So here she and I started down the road. Of course, we were barefoot. I didn't have any overshoes. So there I went plodding down the road with her big old muddy feet, and there was all out in the, I don't know whether he was there on purpose or whether he just happened to be out in the yard. But I was so embarrassed to see him with, I was barefoot. But anyway, it was, I mean, we laughed about it. It was, I wouldn't have been barefoot around the road if I had known I was going to be going with you. But anyway.
How come you was out in the country where he lived?
Why?
How come you were out in the country where he lived?
Well, Edith was my roommate.
Oh.
And she lived out there beyond Orville's folks.
She lived on the corner of the road a little ways.
And it hadn't rained evidently because we wouldn't have left Maryville because it was dirt. We knew it was a dirt road. And so we were out there and it rained. Maybe it was a long weekend. I don't know. But anyway, we walked to the schoolhouse barefoot.
But did you start dating then after that?
Yeah. I suppose that.
And so then, what, 6 weeks later, you were engaged or something
Yeah,
like that?
about like that. That was about 6 weeks. I was,
But did you really love him at that time, do you think?
yeah.
Really? In 6 weeks?
Well, it
Took me
took
16
a lot
years.
of prayer. I prayed till, I mean, I was attracted, I guess you'd say.
Oh.
And God got tired of hearing me, I'm sure.
I did everything possible to drive him off, but it didn't work. I said I did everything possible to drive him off. So what did you ever do?
No, my sister didn't.
My dad knew all the things I did. He would have spanked me at that age.
Well, I
What-
remember
what's
the
something
first
you
time
did?
we met him. I remember the first time that he came to the folks' house. That Orville came to the folks' house, down to Goodrich house.
She remembers the first time he came down to see you.
Oh, that was when those little old girls were standing with their noses against the window, looking like this. Because he was coming back.
I wasn't because he said he remembered me because I was walking to the house from the barn carrying 2 buckets of milk.
If I did him, I'd run off, I think.
He put sugar on his tomatoes when we made fun of him.
We're doing what?
He put sugar on his tomatoes. We had sliced tomatoes. But that was one of the nicer things I did to him.
I can remember her teasing her.
Oh, I bet. I want to throw in this for free because it has nothing to do with the stories we're talking about. Joe Maxey and a kid in our neighborhood had a Model A. Is that what it was, John? That little, well, you're probably too young to remember. But anyway, he'd get a bunch of us as kids. I mean, he had a car, and several of us didn't have it. And it had holes in the floor. And you'd be driving down the road, he'd hit a water hole, a mud hole, it would come up through the floor. I can remember that, you know. But that doesn't mean anything to our stories except I didn't in that car with the water coming up through the floorboard.
But with John and Evelyn, they went all through grade school, all through high school. John went to Navy, Evelyn got married. John got out, Roy Lee passed away, and she started to go to college, and John started college, but he got out of the Navy. And they like one semester of graduating from college at the same time at the University of
You
Missouri.
get in here and tell them.
I thought that was interesting after all those years. Almost finished up school at the same time.
Lisa.
We haven't told.
Better than on the rock.
Sure, do they not know that story?
Pretty little boy you got there.
He is, isn't he?
You're saying goodbye to.
Take care. Good to see you.
Did you pause?
I didn't, but if I could start a new video, I'll try and keep it as one file.
Okay.
One summer when I was in college at Maryville, I had 2 children. Mary Louise and Arnold lived in Hopkins, which was just 2 miles back.
If you had 2 children, they lived in Blockton. If you had 2 children, they lived in Blockton.
Okay, they lived in Blockton. And she kept, I can't imagine why, she kept my 2 children along with her children. During the week, one weekend, she and Arnold went somewhere. And I kept 6 children, and I thought, oh my. By the time I get breakfast dishes over and washed, it's time to get lunch. By the time I get lunch dishes over and washed, it's time to get supper. Then get them to bed. I don't know how she did it all summer with all those kids.
Was it just 6 or was it 7? Annette wasn't here yet?
I was
When were you
here.
born?
5, 6, 7. There were 7 kids.
You were born when?
57.
56.
She was born right after, just before Uncle Randy.
You've been there then.
I said, I remember those times. It was a good time.
Okay. Well, Richard would say that.
Except when Richard fell and
Yes.
hurt himself.
Broke a leg, hip.
No, there was blood involved.
Oh, we were down at that's when the store was there where the post office is now, and we had that next plot to it as a garden, and they went down to the filling station across from, well, where the filling station was, and had gasoline. It was in the old gallon jug, and the boys were running back up the hill and dropped the jug, and Richard Lee cut his arm. Had to have stitches.
I took him to the doctor, and I guess Orville went in with the doctor. Orville and Mary Louise took him into the doctor, and the doctor said, "Where's your mother?" He said, "She faints at the sight of blood." So, Orville and Mary Louise took him went in with him to the doctor, so I wouldn't embarrass him with pain.
So, Dad, you missed it a while ago. They were talking about the things they did to scare you off when you first came calling.
Yes, I did.
So, we wanted some specifics. What did they do to you?
I should have been in here, but I had to. Richard was leaving.
We always said nice things.
So
Aunt Karen and Aunt Margie said they were nice to you. They said it was Aunt Ellen that did all the dirty work.
She kept working for several years, I think.
I didn't want you to take my sister.
What?
I didn't want you to take my sister. I liked her.
But you gotta admit it turned out all right.
Yes. May have been better with J.P. Boone, but
60-some years is a lot of years.
67.
I said 60-some.
You said 67.
well, I hope it is, because mine Richard's 62, so I hope it's 60-some.
I just turned 66. It is 67. 68 in July.
wow.
Well, some of the tricks Evelyn would play on me, I'd call up there at the house to talk to Margaret Ann, and she'd act like she was putting the phone down and going to get her. Pretty soon, of this voice had come back on. They sounded near enough alike. Now, I thought it was Margaret Ann. It'd be Evelyn. And
believe
she'd
everything.
let me talk, you know, for quite a while, and then pretty soon she'd start laughing. And I realized I've been tricked.
But don't believe everything he says. He
She's
doesn't
always been
remember
hard.
everything right.
I guess she didn't want me to get her little sister either.
We could scrap pretty good, but we all liked each other.
Yeah.
So,
Nancy thinks you should tell the story about Ed Rice trying to kiss you.
He's supposed to go to the car. Oh, good heavens. This was in grade school, so I don't know what grade I was in. 7th, maybe, or 8th. Anyway, and the boys, honoring boys, dared Ed or John to kiss me. What was it?
Ed.
Yes,
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
And
yeah, it was Ed. And so he come running down the schoolyard. I'd gone home for lunch. He come running down the schoolyard and down that bank and was going to kiss me. And I said, no, you're not. And I picked up a rock and I threw it and I whacked him right in the head and made him bleed. I didn't even know I could hit him, let alone hurt him. Oh,
Did you
my.
get in
you
trouble
probably
with Grandpa?
couldn't hit him again, probably.
Well, no, I couldn't hit him with a great big stone, but I hit him with a
Then
little.
you had to go to Rice's.
What?
Did you were scared to death of Lyman Rice,
Or Grandpa Rice.
Grandpa Rice. Which one was it you were still scared of? After
Well, it
you,
was probably Grandpa Rice.
I imagine
mean, your
Earl.
grandpa's such a, I mean, he was a
austere.
austere man. I mean, you know, he. And I was absolutely scared to death of what that man was going to do because I hit him with a rock. I don't know how long I worried about that.
At least his mother didn't call you. One time we were riding home in the school bus, and John took my headscarf and tied it in knots. And I grabbed his cap, and he had to walk home. He walked home without his cap, and his mother called my mother and was not at all happy with me. And I said, well, he could have worn my scarf. He was the one that tied it in knots. So.
You didn't mess with those Goodrich girls, I can tell you.
Obviously not.
so I've heard the story that you all wore dresses most of the time.
Oh, my stars, yes.
Okay, always wore a dress, but then when Grandpa was out in the field, so
Well, Mother would let us wear shorts. Of course, they were probably the length of our dresses, but Mother would let us wear shorts. But then she'd say, girls, your dad's coming. You better get your dresses on. So.
We could sleep probably as far as that windmill or that water tower. Maybe not quite that far, but we had a long pasture. I mean, it was long and we could see Dad with his team coming. And we all changed into
But
our
Mother would
dresses.
tell us, here comes your dad. Get your shorts on.
We didn't wear those shorts. I don't know whether he ever suspected or maybe Mother told. I don't know, but I know.
We see the clothes hanging on the
well,
line.
that's what I was gonna say. If the clothes were on the line, he had to.
What would he do if he saw the girls nowadays?
He was never there when the clothes were on the line. He was all in the field.
Well, I don't appreciate the girls nowadays either. Like, we got a sack that I opened the other day that had, I suppose they were shorts. I couldn't see any. I guess there's a little strap between them. But anyway, they went on. Whoever gets their own, wherever those clothing go could enjoy them. Because they're not going to sell them in high school.
Oh my.
And the story about when the skunk, who'd the skunk get?
God.
Because they could, whoever's in front, you couldn't
That was
back
a
up fast
skunk
enough.
story.
Well, we were there, the house had was built up so there was a little place on the back porch that we could play as having a playhouse. And Jesse Leeper was there one day, we were playing, and this pretty kitty walked in, except it wasn't a kitty, and upped his or her tail and shot us and got me, Jesse Lee and I. Did you
You
girls?
were the furthest back in there.
Yeah, I got the best shot.
You and Jesse both got squirted, but
But anyway, it was pretty bad. I don't know. I don't remember whether Dad shot. I just remember burning, our eyes burning, and our clothes. I can't even describe the smell.
Had to bury it, right? Had to bury your dresses.
I don't know whether Mother buried hers or not, but Jess Lee's mother took her skirt and run out in the garden and buried it in the ground. It was supposed to draw that smell out. It might have drawn the smell, but it never drew the stain. The stain was always there. But don't tangle with a skunk. And she wasn't even tangling. Margaret and I could get out. Her and Jess Lee were behind us.
Yeah, I don't know whether you've ever smelled it up
Well, I
close
don't
and
know,
first
but I
hand.
mean,
But it'll just literally make your eyes burn,
Yes.
your nose burn, make
That's
you
what I
sick,
remember.
really.
I don't know whether it make the skin burn. I mean,
I don't remember. I just remember the eyes and nose burning, and the smell of skirt.
You were in close proximity, or proximity.
Yes, we were certainly.
Hey, Karen, you have any stories to tell on your big sisters?
No, they weren't around. You know, I can remember when we moved up to where John Margie has the place now. That bedroom, there was 2 full beds, and Margie and I slept together, and Evelyn and we slept together. But you weren't there very long, were you? Up there at grandmother's house?
Probably not.
Well, you were married there, so you would have been a little while.
What was going on?
And the 2 beds in the front room. I mean,
Mom
just
and
off the front
Dad's.
room, and then Dad and Mom slept in the one
Off the kitchen.
off the kitchen.
Yes.
And you would have been there a little while anyway,
Well, yeah, Karen was, I mean,
because when they moved up there, and I had the school bus stop on the way up there, and I went in and got Rory's picture, moved it, so you would have been, you probably maybe a senior, I don't remember, because you taught school but you were a senior, went to school that
oh
summer.
yeah, when we moved up to the Primrose.
Yes.
but, yeah. That was a big room, I mean,
2 beds and a piano.
Oh, so you guys stayed in the front
They
room?
moved up there when we was
Oh, I
still
always thought, I never knew you all stayed in the
No.
front room. I always thought you all stayed in the back room.
No, they had I remember the 2 beds in that one front bedroom.
Yeah, but you remember Grandma playing piano, yes.
I remember Grandma playing piano at Shelburne
Yeah.
Church.
They didn't have a bathroom until David was 2 years old.
I remember when they got the bathroom.
Oh, yeah, I can remember when they got that.
I told Dad I would